a lean manufacturing kind of subscribes to that model, and it's about incremental improvements over time, and it's quantified impact is the goal, and the results that I know that each one of your cells and then obviously your entire factory are looking for. Could you unpack just a little bit some of the impact from a production standpoint? So we've talked about, hey, it makes life better. Got it. Where does that show up on some of the daily management, whether you're doing QDIP or you've got KPIs that you're reviewing from a productivity standpoint, monthly, daily, weekly, whatever it is. Where does this show up? Like, where does this impact production, productivity targets, KPIs, and metrics?
Sure. So one of the places where we used to talk about, who's here today, who's not here today, was we'd have a kind of shift start meeting with our cell leaders. And that shift start meeting, you can imagine if you try to pile too many things in there, it becomes a little bit of a productivity suck, because then your cell leaders are off the floor when they need to be getting stuff up and rolling. So really what this has enabled us to do is get that communication out to cell leaders, like very first thing as the shift is starting, so we can adjust. And the way that we measure productivity is it's quite literally just units per man hour off of our production lines. That's how we measure it for each of the individual cells. And that rolls up into earned hours over actual hours, when you get into the more financial metrics, but quite literally just units per man hour. So we know what our targets need to be for each of our cells. So I know if I move a person from one cell to another cell because we've got customer orders that are due or whatever, I can tell you with pretty good certainty what that's going to cost me off of the line that I'm moving them from, and then what it's going to earn me on the line that I'm moving them to. So it allows us to make decisions and kind of balance that productivity versus customer demand for right now today, and do it really quickly and first thing in the morning, because you can imagine if we start shift at 5:00, if I don't make personnel shifts until 7:00, I lost 2 hours. You can just bleed time really quickly without even knowing it. And time is either capacity. So, losing capacity to fill customer orders, and order fill rate is a big deal for us, meaning customer orders that are filled on time, or just, lose the productivity. Because if I've got a person in a very important seat that the people that are downstream from them can't do anything without them producing, our workforce, some people will sit there in the chair and do nothing until you make the adjustment. Some people will come and say, hey, I don't have any work, but that's not everybody, and that's the reality of the life that we live.
Yeah. So you've got this units man hour ratio. There's obviously a handful of variables that could affect that, right? It could be machine downtime, it could be staffing, it could be a host of things. Did you guys get into that level of kind of root cause analysis when your ratio is off? Does the operation?
Yeah, I mean it's actually fairly simple. I was just working it this morning for a cell, because I made some adjustments to staffing just based on who we've got in today. And so it's quite literally, we look at what the reason for the downtime is, or what the reason for the output miss was. And so units per hour, it's quite literally units per man hour, which is just assigned hours times people. And so you can change the numerator and the denominator, to whatever ratio you need based on customer demand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's your target. And then when you miss, it kind of facilitates the conversation of why.
Exactly.
And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No.
So what percentage of the time, and I know this is kind of off the cuff here, but even just directional number, I'd be interested in. Absenteeism or availability of staffing is one of many variables. Is it 20% of the time that's the root cause? Is it 80% of the time that people and availability of people is the root cause? What's your gut, or what do you know about how often that ends up being the variable?
That's an interesting question. I'm going to say it depends. And it depends on some external factors. Like, we're in New England, right? What if it snows tomorrow? What am I going to have for people that show up to work? Or, to be perfectly honest, like next week is a short week because of 4th of July holiday. That we've got a lot of people taking vacation to make a long week. So next week it's going to be a really big deal. This week it's kind of medium. Last week it wasn't a problem at all. And then when you get into January, February, March, where the unexpected snow and my kid's school's closed, or I can't physically get to work because my car's buried or whatever, it's a huge deal for days like that. So the short answer is it depends. There's a lot of external factors that make it more or less important in certain circumstances. So
Yeah.
that help. I know that's a non-answer, but it's kind of just all of the variables can either go your way or not.